June 6, 1944, 1:47 in the morning. A single American paratrooper hangs from a church steeple in the center of Sainte-Mère-Église, France. Below him, German soldiers are shooting Americans as they land in the town square. He can see 12 parachutes tangled in trees. He can see 7 bodies on the cobblestones. He cannot reach his reserve shoot knife. The church bell is 3 feet from his head. June 6, 1944, 1:47 in the morning. Sainte-Mère-Église, France. 49.4 degrees north, 1.3 degrees west. A C-47 transport aircraft passes over the town at 500 feet altitude and 120 miles per hour. 18 American paratroopers jump from the door in a stream, 3-second intervals. Standard procedure. Their parachutes deploy automatically using static lines attached to the aircraft. The town below is not dark. The town is burning. A house on the eastern edge of the square caught fire at 11:30 the previous night. The entire town has turned out to fight it. Civilians form bucket brigades. German soldiers supervise. Every building around the square is illuminated by firelight. Visibility is 200 meters. The Americans jump directly into light. German soldiers on the ground look up. They see parachutes silhouetted against flames. They begin shooting before the Americans reach the ground. This is not the plan. This is not remotely close to the plan. The plan called for the 82nd Airborne Division to land in fields 2 kilometers outside Sainte-Mère-Église, assemble into organized units, and approach the town in tactical formation at dawn. The plan allocated 4 hours for assembly and 3 infantry battalions for the assault. Instead, one aircraft stick of 18 men drops directly into the town square at nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, while the town is fully awake and the German garrison is standing in the streets. Private John Steele is the 13th man out of his aircraft. His parachute deploys. He looks down and sees rooftops rushing up toward him. He sees fire. He sees people running. He sees muzzle flashes. He tries to steer his parachute. The T-5 personnel parachute has minimal steering capability. You pull on the risers to spill air from one side. It changes your drift slightly. Steele pulls hard right, trying to avoid the square. He drifts left instead. At 1:48 in the morning, his parachute canopy catches on the stone steeple of the town church. The shroud lines wrap around the peak. Steele slams into the side of the steeple and bounces. He swings freely, suspended 50 feet above the square. He cannot reach his reserve shoot knife to cut himself free. The knife is strapped to his right boot. His legs are tangled in the risers. He hangs motionless. Below him, the killing continues. Private Ladislaw Tilapa lands in a tree on the southern edge of the square. Germans shoot him before he can unbuckle his harness. He dies in the tree. Sergeant Ray Ebisher lands on the roof of a building. He cuts himself free from his parachute. He slides down to the street. A German soldier shoots him with a Schmeisser submachine gun from 15 feet away. 9mm rounds. Ebisher goes down and does not move. Private Penrose Shearer lands directly in the fire. His parachute catches flame. He burns to death before he can remove his harness. 4 more paratroopers land in the square. All 4 are killed within 30 seconds of hitting the ground. John Steele hangs from the church steeple and watches. He plays dead. He closes his eyes. He lets his body go completely limp. He does not move even when he hears Americans screaming below him. The church bell is 3 feet from his head. If the Germans ring it, the sound will be deafening. He hangs for 2 hours and 14 minutes. This is how the battle for the first town liberated on D-Day begins. Not with organization, not with fire support, not with a plan, with chaos, with fire, with men dying before they touch the ground. But Sainte-Mère-Église will be American by dawn. June 5, 1944, 6:30 in the evening, Cottesmore Airfield, England. Lieutenant Colonel Edward Cross, commanding officer of the 3rd Battalion, 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division, briefs his men for the last time. Cross is 33 years old. He stands 6'2" and weighs 210 pounds. Before the war, he was a competitive boxer. His men call him Cannonball because of how he moves in combat. Vast, direct, unstoppable. He spreads a map on a folding table. The map shows Normandy, the Cotentin Peninsula. A small town marked Sainte-Mère-Église sits 7 kilometers inland from Utah Beach. Cross points to the town. He says, "This is the objective. Population 1,500. German garrison estimated at 1 company strength, 100 to 150 men." The town sits at the intersection of Highway N13 running north-south and Highway D67 running east-west. Whoever controls this intersection controls movement throughout the entire peninsula. He continues, "Our mission is to seize the town and hold it. We will be the first Allied unit to liberate a French town on D-Day. We will raise the American flag over Sainte-Mère-Église before dawn. This town will remain American." No exceptions. The men sit on wooden benches in a hangar. They are already wearing their equipment. M1942 jumpsuits, T5 parachutes on their backs, reserve chutes on their chests. M1 Garand rifles strapped to their sides in padded cases. Some carry M1A1 carbines. Some carry Thompson submachine guns. Each man carries 120 rounds of ammunition, 2 grenades, 1 day of rations, a bayonet, an entrenching tool, and a gas mask they will never use. Total weight per man, 70 to 90 pounds. They have painted their faces with a mixture of cocoa powder and cooking oil to reduce shine. They have shaved their heads into mohawks. This is not regulation. They do not care. Cross's battalion consists of 3 rifle companies: Item Company, King Company, and Love Company. Each company has 140 men on paper. Actual strength per company averages 132 men present. Supporting elements include 1 machine gun platoon with 6 30 caliber M1919A4 machine guns, 1 mortar platoon with 3 81mm M1 mortars, 1 headquarters section, and 1 demolition squad. Total battalion strength, 536 men loading onto aircraft. Cross tells them the drop will happen at 1:30 in the morning. 15 aircraft carrying the battalion will drop on 2 separate drop zones north and south of Sainte-Mère-Église. Assembly will be immediate. Rally points are marked on their maps with colored lights: green for Item Company, red for King Company, blue for Love Company. Time allocated for assembly, 30 minutes. H-hour for the assault on the town, 02:30 hours, 2:30 in the morning. Cross folds the map. He looks at his men. He says, "The Germans have been in France for 4 years. We are going to kick them out in 1 night." At 8:45 in the evening, the men board their aircraft, 15 C-47 Skytrains. Each aircraft carries 1 stick of paratroopers. Between 16 and 20 men per aircraft depending on equipment load. At 10:32 in the evening, the aircraft take off. They form up in a V formation and head south across the English Channel. The flight takes 1 hour and 37 minutes. June 6, 1944, 1:12 in the morning. The C-47 formation crosses the coast of Normandy at 2,000 feet altitude. Anti-aircraft fire begins immediately. German 88mm flak guns. Tracer rounds arc up in slow-moving streams. They look lazy. They are not. Each round travels at 3,000 feet per second. The pilots take evasive action. They break formation. They dive. They climb. They turn. The tight V formation disintegrates. Inside the aircraft, the paratroopers are standing. They are hooked up to the static line cable running down the center of the fuselage. They are waiting for the green light that signals jump. The aircraft buck and shake. Men lose their balance. The jumpmaster for each stick braces himself in the door and watches for landmarks below. At 1:26 in the morning, aircraft number 7, carrying 18 men from Item Company, reaches what the pilot believes is the drop zone. He flips the green light. The jumpmaster shouts, "Go!" The men shuffle forward and jump, 1 per second. 18 men exit in 18 seconds. Their parachutes deploy, they look down. They are not over fields. They are over a town. A burning town. They can see streets, buildings, people, fire. There is no time to react. They are falling at 16 feet per second, 50 seconds from exit to impact. Some men land in trees, some land on rooftops, some land in gardens, some land in the town square. The Germans react instantly. They are already awake because of the fire. They are already armed. They simply turn and shoot upward. 11 of the 18 men are killed or captured within the first 3 minutes on the ground. 7 men survive the initial landing. They scatter into shadows, into alleys, into buildings. They go to ground and hide. Private John Steele is one of the 7. He is hanging from the church steeple playing dead. Aircraft number 8 drops its stick 1 minute later. 16 men. They land on the western edge of town. 13 survive the landing. They immediately engage German soldiers with rifles and grenades. A firefight erupts in narrow streets. Aircraft number 9 through 15 drop their sticks between 1:32 and 1:49 in the morning. Some drop north of town as planned. Some drop south. Some drop directly into flooded marshland east of town. Men drown in 4 feet of water, unable to remove their heavy equipment. By 2 o'clock in the morning, Lieutenant Colonel Cross has assembled exactly 42 men at the northern rally point. Out of 536 men who jumped, he can account for 42. He does not wait for more. At 2:11 in the morning, he leads those 42 men towards Sainte-Mère-Église. The approach is silent. Cross moves his men in a tactical column along the western side of Highway N13. No lights, no talking, hand signals only. The men move in a crouch with weapons ready. At 2:23 in the morning, they reach the northern outskirts of town. They can see buildings. They can see the glow of fire still burning on the eastern edge of the square. They can hear voices, German voices, shouting orders, organizing. Cross deploys his 42 men into an assault line, 20 men on the left side of the highway, 22 on the right. They will advance straight down the main road into the town center. He has no machine guns. They were dropped in separate bundles and have not been recovered. He has no mortars for the same reason. He has no radio contact with any other units. His SCR-300 radio was destroyed on landing. What he has are 42 riflemen, 300 rounds per man, and darkness. At 2:27 in the morning, Cross gives the signal. The Americans advance. They move building to building. They do not fire unless they see a target. Noise discipline is absolute. They reach the first row of houses without contact. Then a German soldier steps out of a doorway 15 feet in front of Private Robert Murphy. The German is lighting a cigarette. He looks up. He sees Murphy. His eyes widen. Murphy shoots him once in the chest with his M1 Garand. The German falls backward into the doorway. The sound of the shot echoes through the narrow street. Every German in town now knows the Americans are inside the perimeter. At 2:29 in the morning, the battle for Sainte-Mère-Église becomes loud. The Germans' garrison in Sainte-Mère-Église consists of 108 men from the 91st Luftland Division and 1 platoon of 32 men from the 709th Infantry Division. Total, 140 German soldiers in town at the moment the Americans attack. They are not elite troops. The 709th is a static defense division composed mostly of older men and conscripts from occupied territories, Poles, Russians, Czechs pressed into German service. The 91st is better quality but undermanned and under-equipped, but they are alert, they are armed, and they know the town. The Americans know nothing except which direction is south. The fighting breaks into a dozen separate engagements, happening simultaneously across 6 blocks. Private William Tucker and Corporal John Raybould enter a house on the western side of the square. The door is unlocked. They move through the ground floor. Kitchen, empty. Dining room, empty. They reach the staircase. Footsteps upstairs. Tucker raises his rifle and climbs. Raybould follows. They reach the second-floor landing. A German soldier appears at the end of the hallway. He raises a Kar 98K rifle. Tucker fires first. 1 shot. The German goes down. They clear 3 more rooms. Empty, they move to the 3rd floor. 1 room, door closed. Tucker kicks it open. 2 German soldiers inside, both reaching for weapons, leaning against the wall. Tucker and Raybould fire simultaneously. 8 rounds total, both Germans killed. They exit the house and rejoin their squad in the street. Time elapsed 4 minutes. Sergeant William Owens leads 5 men down an alley running parallel to the main square. They hear German voices ahead. Owens signals halt. He edges forward and peers around the corner. 3 Germans standing in a cluster, talking, smoking. Their rifles are slung over their shoulders. Owens pulls a Mark II fragmentation grenade. He pulls the pin. He releases the spoon. He counts 2. He throws the grenade underhanded around the corner. It lands at the feet of the 3 Germans. They look down. The grenade detonates. All 3 Germans go down. Owens' squad moves forward past the bodies without stopping. Lieutenant Robert Matthews leads a 10-man squad toward the town square from the north. They move along the building fronts using doorways for cover. They reach the edge of the square. The square is approximately 60 meters wide and 80 meters long. Cobblestones. A church on the eastern side, town hall on the southern side, shops and houses on the other 2 sides. Bodies are scattered across the cobblestones. American paratroopers, 12 visible. Some still entangled in their parachutes, some hanging from trees, some sprawled face down. Matthews counts muzzle flashes. 4 German positions, 1 in the church doorway. 1 behind a low stone wall on the southern side. 2 in upper floor windows of buildings facing the square. He cannot cross the square. It is a kill zone. He decides to flank. He takes his squad east through back alleys, circling around to approach the church from the side. At 2:38 in the morning, they reach the side entrance of the church. The door is wooden. Locked, Private Charles Blankenship kicks it. The lock breaks. The door swings open. They enter. The interior is dark. Stone walls, wooden pews, vaulted ceiling. Matthews signals his men to spread out and search. A German soldier is hiding behind the altar. He stands suddenly and fires a Schmeisser MP-40 submachine gun. 9mm rounds, full automatic. The burst rakes across the pews. 1 American is hit, Private Joseph Keller, shoulder and chest. He goes down. 4 Americans return fire. M1 Garand rifles, 32 rounds in 4 seconds. The German behind the altar is killed. 2 more Germans are hiding in the bell tower. They fire down the staircase leading up to the tower. Their position is elevated. They have cover. They are controlling access to the tower. Matthews pulls a grenade. He throws it up the staircase. It bounces off a wall and detonates halfway up. The blast is amplified by the enclosed stone stairwell. The firing from above stops. Matthews leads 3 men up the stairs. They find 2 German soldiers, both dead from shrapnel and concussion. They reach the bell tower. Private John Steele is still hanging from the outside of the steeple. Matthews looks out a narrow window and sees him. Steele's eyes are closed. His head is slumped forward. Matthews cannot tell if he is alive or dead. Matthews shouts, "Are you alive?" Steele does not respond. He is still playing dead. He does not know if the voice is American or German. Matthias shouts again. "Open your eyes if you're American." Steele opens his eyes slightly. He sees Matthias in a U.S. uniform. He nods. Matthias and his men rig a rope. They lower Steele carefully. They cut him free from his parachute harness. Steele's legs are numb from hanging. He cannot walk. They carry him down the stairs and out of the church. The time is 2:51 in the morning. Steele has been hanging from the steeple for 63 minutes. By 3:15 in the morning, American squads have cleared the buildings on the north and west sides of the town square. German resistance in the center of town collapses. Some Germans withdraw south down Highway N13. Some surrender. Some are killed fighting from fixed positions they refuse to abandon. Lieutenant Colonel Cross enters the square from the north at 3:22 in the morning. He has now assembled 78 men. More paratroopers have found their way into town individually or in small groups. He orders the square secured. His men establish defensive positions in buildings overlooking the square. Machine guns are set up covering the southern and eastern approaches. Cross sets up his command post in the town hall. At 3:44 in the morning, he sends a runner to find an American flag. The runner, Private Leo Lemia, searches houses around the square. Most are empty. Civilians have fled or are hiding in cellars. He finds one house with a French family huddled in the kitchen. Lemia speaks broken French. He asks if they have an American flag. They do not. But the father produces a French tricolor flag and hands it to Lemia. Lemia returns to Cross and reports. No American flag available. He presents the French flag. Cross shakes his head. He says, "Find an American flag." At 4:09 in the morning, Lemia searches the town hall itself. In a storage closet on the second floor, he finds a small American flag measuring 2 feet by 3 feet. It is dusty and faded. It was left behind by American soldiers who occupied the town in 1918 during World War I, 26 years ago. Lemia brings the flag to Cross. At 4:16 in the morning, June 6, 1944, Lieutenant Colonel Edward Cross climbs to the roof of the town hall and raises the American flag over Sainte-Mère-Église. It is the first town in France liberated on D-Day. The sun will not rise for another 2 hours. Cross knows the Germans will counterattack. German doctrine is always the same. Lost positions must be retaken immediately. He orders his men to dig in. They have no entrenching tools. Most equipment bundles were lost or scattered. The men use bayonets, helmets, and their hands. They dig shallow fighting positions in gardens behind stone walls. The 82nd Airborne was supposed to have 536 men for this operation. Cross currently has 81 men in defensive positions around Sainte-Mère-Église. At 5:37 in the morning, German artillery begins falling on the town. The rounds are 105mm high explosive. They come from the south. 6 guns firing. Shells impact on the square, on rooftops, in streets. The barrage lasts 9 minutes. 41 rounds total. 3 Americans are killed, 7 wounded. At 5:46 in the morning, the artillery stops. At 5:49 in the morning, German infantry attacks from the south. They come up Highway N13 in a column. Cross glasses them from the town hall roof. He counts approximately 120 men. They are moving in a road march formation, not a tactical assault formation. They do not expect resistance. They think the town is still German-held and the artillery has driven out the Americans. They are wrong. Cross lets them approach to within 300 meters. Then he gives the order to open fire. 6 M1919A4 30 caliber machine guns open up simultaneously. Combined rate of fire, 3,000 rounds per minute. Sustained fire, long belts. 75 American riflemen join in. M1 Garands, M1 carbines, Thompson submachine guns. The German column disintegrates. Men go down in clusters. The survivors scatter into ditches and hedgerows on both sides of the highway. They return fire, but they are pinned. The firefight lasts 18 minutes. At 6:07 in the morning, the Germans withdraw. They leave 34 bodies on the highway. American casualties, 2 wounded. Cross does not pursue. He does not have the men. At 6:43 in the morning, the second German counterattack begins, this time from the east, approximately 90 men advancing through fields and hedgerows. They use proper fire and movement tactics. One squad provides covering fire while another squad advances. Professional, coordinated. The Americans engage at 250 meters. The fighting is intense. Germans reach the outskirts of town. They enter houses on the eastern edge. Room-to-room fighting resumes. Sergeant John Rabig leads a squad to counter the German penetration. They enter a house the Germans have just occupied. Ground floor, 2 Germans. Rabig shoots both with his Thompson submachine gun. His squad moves to the second floor. 4 Germans firing out the windows toward American positions. Rabig throws 2 grenades. Both detonate in the room. All 4 Germans are killed. The Americans retake the house. At 7:19 in the morning, the second German counterattack fails. The Germans withdraw east. American casualties, 5 killed, 11 wounded. German casualties, estimated 43 killed, unknown wounded. Cross now has 71 effectives remaining. At 8:04 in the morning, the third German counterattack begins. This attack is larger, better organized, supported by armor. Lieutenant Colonel Cross sees them coming from 1,000 meters south. He counts 200 infantry, 4 Renault R-35 tanks. The tanks are French-built, captured by the Germans in 1940 and pressed into service. They are obsolete. Maximum armor, 40 millimeters. Main armament, 37 millimeter gun. Maximum speed, 12 miles per hour. But they are tanks. The Americans have no anti-tank weapons. Equipment bundles containing bazookas and anti-tank mines were dropped separately and have not been recovered. Cross has nothing that can stop armor except courage and grenades. He orders his men to let the tanks enter the town. Do not engage at range. Wait until they are close. Target the tracks and vision ports. At 8:21 in the morning, the German force reaches the southern edge of town. The infantry advances behind the tanks. The tanks fire their 37 millimeter guns into buildings. High explosive rounds. They demolish stone walls. Dust and debris fill the air. The Americans hold fire. At 8:24 in the morning, the lead Renault tank enters the town square. Private Robert Niland is positioned in a second-floor window overlooking the square. He has 4 Mark II fragmentation grenades. He waits until the tank is directly below him, 15 feet. He pulls the pin on one grenade. He lets the spoon fly. He counts 1 second. He drops the grenade from the window. It falls directly onto the engine deck of the tank. It detonates. The explosion does not penetrate the armor, but it damages the engine cooling system. Black smoke begins pouring from the engine vents. The tank continues forward another 20 meters. Then it stops. The engine has overheated and seized. The crew bails out. 3 men. They run toward cover. American riflemen shoot all 3 before they reach the nearest building. The second Renault tank attempts to maneuver around the disabled vehicle. It turns left off the paved square onto a side street. The street is narrow. Stone buildings on both sides. Sergeant Otto Zwicky is positioned in a doorway on that street. He has 3 gammon grenades. These are British-designed anti-tank grenades, a cloth bag filled with plastic explosive. Weight 2 pounds. Effective range, thrown by hand. You throw it like a beanbag. It detonates on impact. Zwicky waits until the tank is 10 feet away. He steps out of the doorway. He throws the gammon grenade. It lands on the front glacis plate of the tank and detonates. The explosion is massive. The front armor plate cracks. The driver is killed instantly by concussion. The tank lurches forward out of control and crashes into a stone wall. It does not move again. The 3rd and 4th Renault tanks stop advancing. They reverse. They withdraw south out of the town. They do not return. German infantry attempts to continue the assault without armor support. They advance into the southern streets. Intense close-range fighting erupts. Germans and Americans throw grenades into buildings and shoot through windows. At 8:39 in the morning, Cross receives reinforcements. Captain Willard Falmer arrives with 63 men from King Company. They had been dropped 4 kilometers north and have spent the last 6 hours walking to Sainte-Mère-Église. Cross immediately commits them to the southern perimeter. They counterattack into the streets where Germans have penetrated. The weight of 63 fresh troops tips the balance. At 8:56 in the morning, the 3rd German counterattack collapses. The Germans withdraw south in disorder. American casualties for the 3rd engagement: 9 killed, 18 wounded. German casualties: estimated 78 killed, 12 captured. Sainte-Mère-Église remains American. For the next 36 hours, the 82nd Airborne holds Sainte-Mère-Église against continuous German pressure. Small-scale attacks, probing actions, sniper fire, artillery bombardment. Reinforcements arrive piecemeal. Small groups of paratroopers who landed kilometers away and walked toward the sound of gunfire. By the afternoon of June 6th, Cross has 240 men in defensive positions in and around the town. By the evening of June 6th, he has 318 men. By dawn on June 7th, he has 402 men, still less than the 536 who jumped, but enough to hold. German pressure continues. At 4:12 in the afternoon on June 6th, German artillery fires 63 rounds into the town. At 7:28 that evening, another counterattack develops from the east. Approximately 150 German infantry supported by 2 Stu-GIII assault guns. The assault is repulsed after 47 minutes of fighting. At 2:33 in the morning on June 7th, German forces attack from the north. This is unexpected. All previous attacks came from the south or east. The attack from the north indicates German units are operating in the American rear areas, between Sainte-Mère-Église and the landing beaches. The attack is beaten back by 3 o'clock in the morning. American casualties: 6 killed, 14 wounded. German casualties: unknown but heavy. At 10:15 in the morning on June 7th, lead elements of the 4th Infantry Division advancing from Utah Beach link up with the 82nd Airborne in Sainte-Mère-Église. Tanks, artillery, fresh infantry. Ammunition resupply, medical evacuation. The battle for Sainte-Mère-Église is over. The Americans have held the town for 31 hours against 9 separate German counterattacks. The town never falls back into German hands. Final casualty assessment for the 3rd Battalion, 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment. Jumped from aircraft on the night of June 5-6th, 536 men. Killed in action, 73. Wounded in action, 184. Missing in action, 41. Most of these men drowned in flooded drop zones or were captured after landing far from the objective. Total casualties: 298, 55%. Effective strength remaining after June 7th, 238 men. German casualties are harder to assess. Records from the 91st Luftland Division and 709th Infantry Division were destroyed or lost during the subsequent fighting in Normandy. American estimates based on body counts and prisoner interrogations place German casualties at approximately 260 killed and 112 captured in the fighting for Sainte-Mère-Église. The town itself suffered significant damage. 38 buildings were destroyed or heavily damaged by artillery, grenades, and fires. 11 French civilians were killed during the fighting. 27 were wounded, but the town was liberated on D-Day, the first town in France freed from German occupation. The American flag, raised by Lieutenant Colonel Cross on the morning of June 6, remained flying throughout the battle. That flag is now in the Airborne Museum in Sainte-Mère-Église. You can see it today. Private John Steele survived the war. He returned to the United States and lived until 1969. He died of throat cancer at age 55. He rarely spoke about hanging from the church steeple. When asked, he would only say, "I was lucky." The church in Sainte-Mère-Église still stands. A dummy parachute with a mannequin representing John Steele hangs from the steeple every day. It has been there since 1964. Tourists photograph it constantly. Lieutenant Colonel Edward Cross was promoted to full colonel and later commanded the entire 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment during the Battle of the Bulge. He retired from the Army in 1966 with the rank of Major General. He died in 1988 at age 77. Private John Raybould, who cleared houses on the night of June 6, was killed in action during Operation Market Garden in Holland on September 19, 1944. He is buried in the Netherlands American Cemetery. Lieutenant Robert Matthews, who led the squad that cleared the church, survived the war. He remained in the Army and served in Korea. He retired as a lieutenant colonel in 1963. Private Leo Lemia, who found the American flag in the town hall, was wounded during the fighting on June 7, shrapnel from an artillery shell. He survived and returned home to Massachusetts. He worked as a postal carrier for 37 years. He died in 2004 at age 82. The French family who offered their tricolor flag to the Americans still lives in Sainte-Mère-Église. Their descendants operate a bakery on the town square. Sainte-Mère-Église became a symbol. The first town, the first American flag on French soil on D-Day, the first victory, but the cost was severe. The 82nd Airborne Division suffered over 5,000 casualties during the first week of the Normandy campaign. Entire companies were reduced to 20 or 30 men. Battalions fought at one-third strength. The parachute drop on the night of June 5-6 was chaotic. Aircraft scattered by anti-aircraft fire and poor navigation. Men dropped kilometers from their assigned zones. Equipment bundles lost. Units disorganized. Command and control nearly non-existent, but the chaos worked in the Allies' favor. Small groups of American paratroopers appeared everywhere behind German lines. They cut communications wires. They ambushed convoys. They seized crossroads. They created the impression of a massive airborne force, when in reality they were scattered and disorganized. German commanders did not know where the Americans were or how many there were. They delayed reinforcements. They held reserves in place. They hesitated. That hesitation gave the amphibious forces landing on the beaches time to establish a foothold. Sainte-Mère-Église was part of that. A town that was supposed to be taken at dawn by an organized battalion assault was instead taken in darkness by 42 men who did not wait for orders, did not wait for reinforcements, and did not stop moving forward. That is the lesson of Sainte-Mère-Église, not that the plan worked. The plan failed completely. The lesson is that initiative and aggression can overcome failed plans if soldiers are trained well enough to act independently. The 82nd Airborne jumped into chaos. They fought in chaos. They won in chaos. That is airborne warfare. If you visit Sainte-Mère-Église today, you will find a small Norman town of approximately 1,500 people, the same population it had in 1944. The town square looks almost identical to how it looked on June 6, 1944. Cobblestones, stone buildings, the church with its distinctive steeple, the town hall with its clock tower. The Airborne Museum sits on the edge of the square. Inside are artifacts from the battle, uniforms, weapons, photographs, personal letters, the American flag raised by Lieutenant Colonel Cross, a C-47 transport aircraft suspended from the ceiling. Every year on June 6th, the town holds a memorial ceremony. Veterans attend, fewer each year. In 2024, only 2 veterans of the battle were still alive and able to travel. Both were 99 years old. The church still has damage visible on the exterior walls, bullet holes, shrapnel scars. The stone is pockmarked. The town has never repaired it. They leave the scars visible as a reminder. On the interior wall of the church is a stained glass window installed in 1964. It depicts paratroopers descending from the sky, with the Virgin Mary watching over them. Beneath the window is an inscription in French and English. In memory of the paratroopers of the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, who liberated Sainte-Mère-Église on 6 June 1944. The bodies of American soldiers killed in the battle were later moved to the Normandy American Cemetery at Calvel-sur-Mer. 9,387 white marble crosses and stars of David, arranged in perfect rows, overlooking Omaha Beach. 73 of those graves belong to men who died taking a town most of the world had never heard of. A town that mattered for one reason: it was first.